Hello students, today we are going to take up poetic devices which are there in class 12 CBSE English course syllabus. This video has been prepared keeping in view the class 12 2020-21 CBSE English course syllabus, wherein students have to be well versed with 5 beautiful poems which are My Mother at 66 by Kamala Das, An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum by Stephen Spender, Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda, A Thing of Beauty by John Keats, and Aunt Jennifer's Tigers by Adrian Rich. Now, before we go on to the purpose of a poetic device in any poem, let us see if we can define poetry. Well, many have tried to define poetry. No one has succeeded in giving a satisfactory definition of it. However, if you ask me, I am quite convinced with William Wordsworth's view on poetry. He says, "It is a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. It takes its origin from emotion that is recollected in tranquility." So now, if we talk of the purpose of a poetic device, or as we also call them, literary devices or figures of speech, we can say that a figure of speech is basically a departure from the ordinary form of expression or the ordinary course of ideas in order to produce a greater effect. All right, let us talk of simile and metaphor. Now, students get confused between these two. So, a very easy formula so that you never forget the difference between the two is this. Simile is an expanded form of metaphor, whereas metaphor is a compressed form of simile. So just memorize these two lines. So simile is basically a comparison which is made between two objects of different kinds which have at least one point in common, and you will find the mention of as the words as and like are there. So it is a direct comparison. And metaphor is an implied simile. What does that mean? It basically means that it does not say that one thing is like another. In fact, it takes for granted and proceeds as if two things were one. My favorite example, which I take from Renan Martin, is this. He fought like a lion in the battle. He was a lion in the battle. So I repeat the formula. Simile is an expanded form of metaphor. Metaphor is a compressed form of simile, and something which is very evident is this, that the mention of as and like will be there in a simile, whereas in a metaphor it will be missing. Now here you can see a few examples from your poems. Her face ashen like that of a corpse. This is from your poem by Kamala Das, that is My Mother at 66. Worn pale as a late winter's moon, again from My Mother at 66. Now, in the next simile, the life of children living in slums has been compared to catacomb. Now, what is a catacomb? Catacombs refer to underground cemetery, or you can also say a burial ground, which is dark, just like the lives of these slum children. Okay. And in the previous example, the poet from My Mother at 66, when the poet says worn pale as a late winter's moon, and her face ashen like that of a corpse, the poet has compared the face of her old mother to that of a dead body when she says that her face is ashen like that of a corpse. Okay, and she goes on to compare her with the late winter's moon, which is pale. So these all are similes. Now let us have a look at some of the metaphors. The paper seeming boy with rat's eyes. This is from an elementary school classroom in a slum by Stephen Spender. Here the boy is called, okay, very thin. Okay, so there is no mention of as and like here, so you can say that this is a metaphor. An endless fountain of immortal drink. This is from A Thing of Beauty. Reading a flowery band, again from A Thing of Beauty. And a bower quite of us, again a metaphor. which is taken from a thing of beauty. Now next, let us talk of what is personification. Personification is when we attribute human characteristics to someone or something that is not human. Okay, so these are a few examples from your poems. Trees sprinting. Okay, this is from my mother at 66. Dome riding all cities. This is from your an elementary school classroom in a slum. Face of the earth. This is from your keeping quiet. Selfish cars is from a roadside stand. However, this is not there in your syllabus this year. Now, I have placed a few images here, and I would like you to, try and personify these beautiful pictures. Okay, whatever you can see, a flower, a brook, mountains, fruit, mobile phone. So, cup and saucer, all right, teapot, all these things can be personified. So, just try and personify them. Allusion. Okay, allusion, as the name only suggests, it is an indirect reference. It is a brief reference to a well-known person, place, or happening. And mostly allusions are drawn from literature. However, some do refer to historical events or people, or something can be taken from ancient history, or something can be recent also. And we why are we talking of this? Because there is a biblical allusion in the poem A Thing of Beauty. Keats has used biblical allusion when he talks of simple sheep. So Jesus Christ is considered a shepherd who is surrounded by his flock of sheep, or we may call them followers. So this sheep imagery is taken to symbolize divine beauty and innocence, like mankind for whom the objects of nature are a boon. Irony is another very powerful tool. It consists of using words in a sense which are very different from their usual meaning. In your poems, if I talk of Aunt Jennifer's Tigers by Adrian Rich, brutal tiger is depicted as chivalric, whereas cultured man has been shown as an oppressor. In an elementary school classroom in a slum, Stephen Spender has used the word heir in the line unlucky heir of twisted bones. So this use of the word heir is ironical because generally people inherit property, cash, jewelry, or something else which is, valuable, precious. However, in this case, the poet says that the boy has inherited this disease due to which his bones have become twisted. Alliteration. This is occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning of adjacent or closely connected words. There are various examples of alliteration in almost all the poems. So these are some of the examples. Far, far from. Okay, so you can see the word F, F, F in all these three words. Sudden strangeness, S, S. Hurt hands, noble natures, fingers fluttering, prancing proud. So when there is an occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning of adjacent or closely connected words, that is an alliteration. Repetition. Repetition as a literary device functions as a means of reinforcing a concept, thought, or idea for a reader by repeating certain words or phrases. For instance, in My Mother at 66, the poet says, towards the end, if you remember, all I did was smile and smile and smile. In the poem An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum by Stephen Spender, the poet has used the word far, far many times. So this he's doing in order to, lay this emphasis as to how far these slum children are from the beauties of nature, from all the good things of the world. And then in Keeping Quiet also we see repetition without rush, without engines. What's a pun? Pun, pun. It consists in the a pun consists in the use of a word in such a way that it is capable of more than one application. It is used in a manner to suggest two or more possible meanings, and the purpose is mainly to create either humor or irony. Now, in Keeping Quiet, you will see the word arms. Now, arms is not just only literal meaning would be referring to the arms, hands, But it also refers to arms and ammunitions when he is talking of violence. Then, in an elementary school classroom in a slum, there are a lot of words where you can see the use of pun. For instance, the word reciting, sour cream, lead sky. Literal meaning in reciting is that the child is reciting his lessons. However, the figurative meaning would be that he is more prominently reciting his father's gnarled disease that has been passed down through generations. Sour cream also, the literal meaning is the neglected walls of the classrooms because the walls have become dirty. However, figurative meaning would be it is a sad place, it is a dismal place where nobody can, dream. Then lead sky, literal meaning obviously is polluted sky. However, the figurative meaning would be a sky that does not open opportunities but weighs down heavily, blocking all escape from the slums. Imagery. An image is a word or expression that speaks directly to one or more of the senses. So, as per your syllabus, mainly you will find auditory and visual images that are more common actually. So, images can again appeal to other senses as well, children. Now, in your syllabus, in your poem, A Thing of Beauty, there are beautiful images drawn by the poet. So, for instance, a flowery band, gloomy days, shady boon, daffodils with the green world, clear rills that for themselves a cooling covert make, the mid-forest brake rich with a sprinkling of fair musk rose blooms, and such too is the grandeur of the dooms. So these are a few images. Then in an elementary school classroom in a slum by Stephen Spender, wherein the poet says, the tall girl with her weighed down head, the paper seeming boy. So what are all these? These are basically images, visual images. Then if we talk of keeping quiet, you can see again a lot of imagery. For instance, when the poet says fisherman in the cold sea, this is an imagery. Man gathering salt, his hurt hands. Okay, all these are images that the poets paint to make their poems powerful. Anaphora, the repetition of a word or a phrase at the beginning of successive clauses. Okay, so I could locate from these three poems. I hope I haven't missed any. Just in case I have, all right, I'm sure you will be able to locate it. So these are three anaphoras that I could locate. Keeping quiet, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second. On Jennifer's Tigers, the repetition of they, right? So run, run, like that. So in at the beginning of successive clauses. That is anaphora. Now, contrast is a rhetorical device through which poets or writers they identify differences between two subjects, places, persons, things, or ideas. So mainly, for instance, in My Mother at 66, there is a very clear-cut contrast between the old mother and young trees and children. In Aunt Jennifer, nervous Aunt Jennifer and her confident tigers. So these two main contrasts. Now, what is an antithesis? Poets make use of this to make their work powerful, and literally it means opposite. In antithesis, two opposite ideas are put together in a sentence to achieve a contrasting effect. For instance, in Keeping Quiet, the poet says, now we will count to 12 and we all will keep still. So he is asking us to do something, yes, perform something, and then he is asking us to keep still. So that's an antithesis. In a thing of beauty, trees young and old, this can be a contrast also. When everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. All right, this is again from Keeping Quiet. Symbolism is a rhetorical device that uses symbols to signify ideas and qualities by giving them symbolic meanings that are different from their literal sense. And you will see a lot of symbolism in Aunt Jennifer's Tigers. Each and everything, has a symbol, has been used as a symbol, and there is immense symbolic meaning that has been conveyed through the poem. So tigers are symbolic of fearlessness, freedom. The aunt's wedding band is a symbol of pressures and constrictions. Aunt Jennifer herself is a symbol of oppression, conformity, and persecution. and Aunt Jennifer's husband is definitely a patriarchal figure. In keeping quiet, the word 12 has been used and it symbolizes a measure of time. Again, in keeping quiet, the word this fisherman is there, whale is there. So, what do they symbolize? Fisherman is showing how man is ruthlessly destroying nature and harming other species for his own selfish need and greed. So, fisherman here stands for the oppressor, and whale symbolizes the oppressed. A thing of beauty is simple sheep. We have already spoken of the biblical allusion here, and an elementary school classroom in a slum, wherein the poet talks of squirrel's game and he also talks of fog. So, fog has been used throughout the poem, this word, and it refers to the bleak future of these children who are dwelling in slums. All right. So, fog is symbolic of despair. And squirrel's game obviously refers to fun going, refers to fun going outdoors to escape the dull and dismal classroom. What's a metonymy, children? In Greek, this literally means a change of name. It means using the name of one particular thing which is replaced by the name of something that is closely associated with it. And this figure of speech helps to indirectly refer to something. And the perfect example would be the wedding band in Aunt Jennifer's Tigers, which represents the sad, unfortunate marriage. Synecdoche and transferred epithet. Now, synecdoche is a figure of speech in which a part is made to represent the whole or vice versa. For instance, if I say England lost by 5 wickets, basically I'm referring to the English cricket team. So in Aunt Jennifer's Tigers, her hands refers to basically aunt, okay, aunt's whole being. Now, her hands also is a transferred epithet. So let us now come to a transferred epithet. Epithet basically means adjective. And when do we say transferred epithet? When an adjective is usually used to describe one thing. When an adjective usually used to describe one thing is transferred to another. Okay. So another noun basically. All right. One thing to another thing. So that's a transferred epithet. Hyperbole. What is hyperbole, children? Hyperbole is an exaggerated statement or claim which is not meant to be taken literally. For instance, if I say the weight of Aunt Jennifer's husband's ring, this is definitely a hyperbole. So with that, we come to an end of this particular video. I hope I was able to cover all the poetic devices. Thank you so much.